Nobody buys an Omega Seamaster because they want to show off. They buy it because it's a solid watch that you don't have to worry about. Today, we're talking about how the Seamaster collection has evolved through the eras, digging through the archives to show you everything that's available to you on the market. We're covering the current lineup, including what I think are the strongest models right now. You'll see the special edition Seamasters worth knowing about. We'll talk pricing and how to get the most for your money. And you know we're covering the Seamaster's stiff competition that you need to consider if you want to choose the best watch for you. If you like this series, check out the others we've done for the Rolex Datejust, the Submariner, the Cartier Tank, and the Omega Speedmaster, to name a few. And please drop us a follow to be the first to find out about new videos hitting the channel. The story of the Omega Seamaster goes back to 1948, the brand's 100th anniversary. And the collection has grown and changed a lot in the nearly 6 decades since. As the name makes clear, the biggest selling point for the Seamaster is its water-resistant case. In the late 1950s, Omega began using the half-horse, half-fish hippocampus logo on the Seamaster to signal its hermetic qualities. That logo was later applied to other water-resistant watches from Omega. The original Seamasters were, like a lot of other watches from that era, smaller and dressier compared to modern standards. These remain some of the best ways to get into vintage watches, into the world of luxury watch brands, and into what would today be considered dress watches. And with prices starting around $500, I don't think anyone would argue with the value available. 1957 was a big year for Omega, launching the Speedmaster, the Railmaster, and the Seamaster 300. The forgotten, quote, fourth musketeer, the Omega Ranchero, launched a year later in 1958, but that's a subject for another video. As you look through Seamaster 300s from the 50s and 60s on Chrono 24, you'll notice a few styles including the collectible CK2913 with a broad arrow and the military issue Big Triangle used by the British Royal Navy. Despite the 300 on the dial, the watches were only tested to 200 meters, which Omega says is due to the limitations of the testing equipment, not the watches themselves. Regardless, we see the Seamaster come into its own as a true tool watch instead of a water-resistant dress watch. Another quirk of these early Seamasters is the use of both count up and count down bezels. One format for measuring how much time has elapsed, and the other for measuring how much time is left on a dive. Roughly a decade after the Seamaster 300 debuted, the underwater breathing technology advanced for both commercial and recreational divers. Thus, watches had to upgrade their water resistance to match. Cue the Omega Seamaster 600 and Seamaster 1000, commonly known as the Poprof. These are some of the most distinctly recognizable watches in the world thanks to the striking case shape and the brightly colored button that locks the bezel in place. Now you're probably wondering, how does this thing wear? The watch is more wearable than you might expect since the lug-to-lug measurement is only 48 millimeters. It's basically identical to the Rolex Submariner. The modern version also comes in grade 5 titanium, so it's rather light on the wrist, even with a diameter of 55 millimeters and a thickness of 18.5. You do need to have a large frame to keep this watch looking relatively proportional. Our friend and Irish bar owner, Victor Boyd, wears one, as does the CEO of Chrono 24, who at 6'7" tall is frankly a little too tall. Sorry, Karsten. In 1993, we get the Seamaster Diver 300M, featuring a scalloped bezel, a wavy dial, and a helium escape valve at 10 o'clock. 2 years later, in 1995, you'll find James Bond himself wearing it in GoldenEye. That partnership between Omega and 007 continues to this day. Starting in 2002, Omega released the Seamaster Aquaterra, one of the best everyday watches in the game, and one we'll talk about more later in this video. And finally, in 2005, Omega launched the Planet Ocean, featuring 600 meters of water resistance, a coaxial escapement, and a beefier case. In the 2 decades since this last major model launch, Omega has continued to morph and mature the model lines within the Seamaster collection. The styles and specifics change with the tides, but the spirit remains the same. This brings us to Omega's current lineup for the Seamaster, which includes 138 variations, and the collection that I would consider the best among them. Omega is a brand known for making a lot of watches. This often comes in the form of limited editions, a subject we'll dive into later in this video, but they also iterate within their core collection. The 138 Seamasters on the Omega website are divided into sub-collections for the Aquaterra, the Diver 300, the Planet Ocean, and their heritage models. The Aquaterra collection is one of the best daily driver watches in the industry today. What it lacks in true diver DNA, it makes up for in situational versatility, meaning it's as suitable for date night as it is for a dip in the ocean. The case sizes range all the way from 28 millimeters if you choose a quartz to 43 millimeters if you go for the world timer. You also have an ever-expanding range of dial colors. My favorite dial for the Aquaterra isn't in the current lineup, but we'll shout it out in the next section of this video. The current Diver 300M collection has range and includes the Titanium 007 edition, ceramic models, a murdered out all black version, ones with precious metal accents, more chronographs than you'd expect, and a gem set version that retails for $150,000. There are, of course, plenty of handsome standard issues in the mix as well. The Planet Ocean series has chronographs, GMTs, and a few ultra deeps water resistant to 600 meters. If you like the mid-century styling of the early Seamaster 300s, then the Heritage Collection is for you. You've got that classic broad arrow hour hand in either a lollipop or arrow-tipped seconds hand. Finally, which of the current generation Seamasters is the best, in my opinion? It's not one particular model or even a particular collection. It's the Summer Blue series that launched in 2023 and includes all major models of the Seamaster lineup. I was skeptical at first, but after seeing these in person, I love the gradient of blues, how they draw you in, and how they don't take themselves too seriously. These certainly have potential to be future classics. We're talking about special and limited edition Omega Seamasters, and if anyone loves a limited edition, it's Omega. We're saving the best for last, and we'll run through these fairly quickly because the limited editions tend to be on the more adventurous side, so you'll know pretty quickly whether the designs resonate with you or not. The most popular limited edition Seamaster out there has got to be the Trilogy revival of the Seamaster 300. This watch debuted alongside revivals of the Speedmaster and Railmaster, each echoing the iconic designs of the 1957 Dream Team, and you could buy these individually or as a set of 3. The Fotina is a little heavy-handed for some, but there's a reason why the overall design DNA still looks amazing today. Next, we're talking Bond, James Bond. Specifically, the Spectre Seamaster 300 featuring a 12-hour bezel. The simple beauty of this watch is that the rotating bezel acts as a GMT, allowing you to track a second time zone. There are, of course, a couple other 007 approved limited editions in this roster, some better than others. The sleeper hit has got to be the Titanium Diver 300M, made for the brand's 150th anniversary. I'm also loving some of the Olympic edition Seamasters, and the best part is that the good ones don't exactly scream Olympics. The Seamaster 1948 is a classically handsome watch that you wouldn't guess is tied to the games. The colorful Rio edition from 2016 is growing on me, but the best all around has got to be this 2020 Tokyo Aquaterra with the wavy checkered pattern on the dial. Rolex's fluted dial JHS has quickly become a fan favorite, but honestly, I'd prefer one of these. Let's touch on pricing quickly before ending with the Seamaster Stiffest competition. And what we're trying to differentiate here is between what's approachable and what's truly collectible. Now, if you sort from high to low on Chrono 24, you'll see that the most expensive Seamasters are generally that way because of materials costs like precious metals and gemstones. You'll even see the Malachite dial Seamasters making an appearance. You will, however, find some of those military-issued Seamaster 300s commanding high prices. And the more information sellers have about who owned the watch and what it survived, the higher price it can fetch. Most bread and butter Seamasters fall under the $5,000 mark in Chrono 24, with the more desirable standard issues falling between $5,000 to $10,000. The good news about that roughly $5,000 price average is that you can know you're getting a well-built luxury watch without feeling like you're getting ripped off. You're getting the heritage, you're getting the build quality, you're getting design details, you're getting features like the coaxial statement, and you're getting something that earns a lot of respect from other collectors and enthusiasts. And as you go even less expensive on the scale, the value arguably goes up. We mentioned the vintage Seamasters being some of the best affordable dress watch options, and on the diver side, I'd add the 36mm diver with the white gold bezel as a sleeper hit. You can find those for around $2,000. And if we're talking about overall best value, a highly subjective question, I'd vote for either the Aquaterra or the Heritage Collection. And while I'm not sold on the wave dial, the scalloped bezel and sword hinge of the 300M are growing on me. And there's a reason why they're as popular as they are. But hey, that's just one man's opinion, and you gotta go with your gut on something like this. Now for the most fun part of the video, the competition. Because if you're considering buying an Omega Seamaster, you're probably considering a few other watches simultaneously. This is the part where I need you to comment on how you think the Seamaster stacks up against other watches in the field. Now, there are a couple ways to approach this. One would be to appeal more to the dressy Aquaterra side of the Seamaster, and the other would be to find competitors on the tool watch side of the Seamaster. For the Aquaterra, you've got some strong competitors without diving bezels, but with enough water resistance for daily life. The Rolex Datejust, the Rolex Explorer, the Cartier Santos, and a few Grand Seikos come to mind. I think it's mainly a gut feeling, identity decision rather than a spec for spec comparison. All these watches look great and have screw-down crowns. The difference is whether you consider yourself a Rolex kind of person, or a Cartier kind of person, or a Grand Seiko fan, or maybe none of the above. On the tool watch side of the equation, the specs matter more than before, but it still needs to look good. In other words, once all the boxes are checked off for water resistance, lume, bezel tactility, you still need to fall in love. Here, the main competition comes from Tudor with their Black Bay and Pelagos lines, from no frills divers like Zinn. I'd throw the Longines Legend diver in here, and the ever-present but more upmarket Rolex Submariner. In fact, as much as I like and admire the Seamaster, if you really only want one dive watch and are willing to save, I'd go for the Sub. But again, one man's opinion. You could also argue that some of the Omega Seamaster's biggest competition is the Omega Speedmaster. Unless you're a big fan of the brand, you'll probably only own one Omega at a time. So there's an inherent fork in the road. The best and worst part about picking a watch is the existential crisis. What's important to you? What can you live with day in and day out? What version of yourself do you want to project to the world? All this to say, go with your gut, and if you keep coming back to the Seamaster, then lean into that feeling and get a Seamaster. What advice would you give to someone considering a Seamaster, and what has your personal experience been with the watch? Drop a comment below. I'm Thomas Hendricks of Chrono 24. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.